Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakahak Wadash, Barakatum. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well. In peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. This is the brother Ra'aya with another video, and I'm going to start it off in Isaiah chapter 19, verse 2. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians. And this isn't talking about the ancient Egyptians or Mizraim, who are Hamites or so-called Africans. This is talking about the modern-day spiritual Egyptians in spiritual Egypt, as pursuant to Revelation 11, verse 8. These American Edomites, or so-called white people. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians, and they shall fight, everyone against his brother, and everyone against his neighbor, city against city, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be a second civil war in the United States of America, where people from all different walks of life, political affiliations, class affiliations, gender affiliations, etc., will be fighting each other, and blood will flow through the streets of the United States of America. And if you've been paying attention for the last couple of years, the divisions between people in this country have just intensified. Pretty much everywhere people can be divided on, and every issue people can be divided on, people are divided on them. And I opened up the video with this verse to preface a little bit of this video from the Timcast IRL YouTube channel, titled "Sheriff Deploys Security as Armed Vigilantes Appear at Ballot Drop Boxes." And as we'll see in this clip, there are reports coming out in Arizona that you've got armed people showing up at ballot drop boxes because they want to make sure that the votes for the upcoming midterm elections are so-called fair, and that there isn't any voter fraud or anything like that, because you've got a lot of people still heavily divided over the results of the 2020 presidential election, and whether there was fraud with the votes or not. Just know that your votes don't matter. It doesn't matter if you're a Republican or a Democrat. The elites are the ones that ultimately select the president of this country, and the president plays ball with their agenda. But regardless, the majority of people out here still believe that voting matters, and it matters if you're a conservative or a liberal, Republican or Democrat, and that you're by you voting in people you think are for your best interests, you'll steer the country in the best direction, which is not the case. The United States of America is coming to an end. We're living in the twilight hours of this place being a superpower and a country as a whole. So again, civil war is going to take place in this country, as well as a state of martial law, along with all the other calamities that Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai is going to bring to the United States of America to punish it for all the iniquity this country has committed on the planet, especially against the apple of his eye, the true children of Israel, who are known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today. And then ultimately, this place is going to be wiped off the face of the earth by 200 million nuclear missiles, which is going to turn it into the biblical lake of fire from sea to shining sea, and then a desolate, uninhabitable wasteland afterwards. But again, as we'll see in this clip, this country is clearly divided, and these modern-day spiritual Egyptians, these Americans, they've lost faith in their system to the point to where armed vigilantes are showing up at drop ballot boxes to make sure that there's no voter fraud. So what do you ultimately think the next step's going to be? People going at it in the streets, shooting at each other, stabbing each other, throwing Molotov cocktails at each other, killing each other. But this is a fair use copyright disclaimer. I do not own any of the footage in this video, nor do I stand to gain from it monetarily. It is simply for educational purposes. And I'm going to play about the first 7 minutes of this clip. But before I start, I'm going to get one more precept. This is Mark chapter 3, verses 24 to 25. And if a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand. And if a house be divided against itself, that house cannot stand. And the kingdom of the United States of America is clearly divided, again, on damn near every level, and it will fall. Hey, just like the nation of Israel fell when the southern kingdom and the northern kingdom were at odds with each other. It's no different with these Edomites.
Let's talk about the Civil War that's coming. How about that, guys? We got
Everyone
the story
drink. Take a shot.
Everybody drink. All right, Arizona sheriff steps up security around ballot drop boxes amid reports of intimidation. I wanted to ask you guys about this because we have this story. Some guys were wearing bulletproof vests. They had guns. They were in their Maricopa County, and they're sitting next to some ballot drop boxes. Apparently, there's an organization that's advocating for watching these ballot boxes, and I said this was going to happen. I said, after like 2,000 mules and after a lot of these claims, people are going to go to the drop boxes and they are going to watch. Then you're eventually going to see Antifa show up. We've already had one woman show up and confront them. The cops got.
And there is always a chance that this is just a controlled opposition set up to just create more drama around the midterm elections. But regardless, a monkey see, monkey do. People that see stuff like this are going to get the idea in their head to think, yeah, that is a good idea. We need to start showing up to places armed up. Hey, the other side's doing it.
Called. Now the sheriff is sending, I guess, security, police to monitor these boxes. And I don't know. Does this escalate? What the Bulwark wrote, and we're all big fans of the Bulwark. They're the conservative neocons who hate Republicans. It's weird. They wrote that their scenario that they fear for escalation of civil war is that at a polling location and on the midterms, someone is there observing, someone on the right, they're armed. They see someone who they think is committing fraud or something. A fight breaks out, a gunshot rings out, a poll worker is on the ground bleeding, someone films it. That was their scenario. My scenario is simpler.
And hey, Albaratazah, something like that does take place during the midterms elections, whether it happens naturally or whether it's controlled opposition. But regardless, we know through the scriptures that these Edomites in America are eventually going to lock horns with each other and blood will flow through the streets. And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians.
Two guys show up, they got bulletproof vests and they got guns. They're watching the ballot drop box. A leftist walks up to him and starts screaming, saying, "Get out of here, you're white supremacists." A scuffle breaks out, nothing serious. The police are called and the police are forced to start pushing people back. Nobody can vote. The polling location is now closed and a dispute arises as to whether or not the election can be legitimate if polling locations are being shut down.
I don't know where we go from here. People don't have faith in these drop boxes. And just to take it back a little bit, I think it was Philly where they had the Black Panther Party that was intimidating voters back maybe a decade ago or whatever, and nothing happened. So it goes back. We've had scuffles at polling locations. I think it was John Calhoun's father who took guns to the legislature to get his own district or whatever. So fights occur in these places, but people do need to have faith. We need cameras. We need enforcement mechanisms to make sure that there aren't thousands of ballots being dropped off. It happened in Muskegon County in Michigan. I'm hearing stuff in Wisconsin already. It happens
it's happening
all over
right
the place.
now.
Yeah, I think it's happening right
I
now.
think the question too is which states allow ballot harvesting and which don't, because some do.
Well, I mean, even in Wisconsin, where I served on election day and then helped out with that investigation later, there was a Supreme Court decision there where they said, you can't ballot harvest, but I'm still hearing that people come in with bags, you object, and they don't listen to you. So it doesn't matter if the law on the books is one thing, if there's no way for you to enforce it.
Well, I think...
And we can clearly see that the kingdom of the United States of America is divided. With each passing day, people are losing more and more faith in this voting system as a whole to where it has to get to situations like this taking place.
I think the issue right now, depending on where this goes, is simple. I think people should be watching ballot boxes.
Yeah.
I think there should be cameras. I think there should be security. Hold on, let me slow down. There should...
And there's so much division that regardless of who so-called wins, the Republicans or the Democrats, the other side, just like during the 2020 elections and the 2016 elections, are going to be like, oh, there was voter fraud. They clearly stole it.
Be ballot drop box.
Further eroding confidence in this U.S. system.
At all. We should not have election month. we should have election day. It should be a federal holiday. People should get time off to be able to go and vote and then enjoy nice beer and pizza with their friends afterwards or whatever. But if we're going to have any kind of polling location, then I think we should have security cameras on everything. That's it. The crazy thing to me is, how is it the DOJ is getting involved now, calling it voter intimidation. How is it intimidating someone that you're sitting there watching? Like, you're allowed to be in public, you're allowed to be armed, you're allowed to wear armor. None of that is a crime. If they started screaming at people and chasing after them and stuff, yeah, okay, there you go. But they're claiming that someone came up and then some people started taking pictures of them and they're like, that's intimidation. And it's like, bro, you're in public.
It's a different law, but it's the same story that we had with the FACE Act, which is the freedom to access clinic entrances, which they used against abortion protesters. That often would just
they're using right now.
Right, they're using right now.
Yeah.
But there were some Supreme Court cases and you can't be as aggressive. But yeah, they're still using it. Here's another law where they creatively apply it to people to get their preferred ends. So
I don't know. What do you guys think is going to happen?
Jeez, you want to go for it?
No, you go ahead.
Oh man, regarding these, I kind of agree that
I just think in general, not even just this. I think what happens on the 8th?
unless you create faith in the voting system as a whole, I think it's going to slowly unravel. Right. And for that, it's like, I don't like digitized voting counting proprietary software, because I don't care if I'm mailing it in, handing it to a guy, putting it in a box and he's carrying it. If it's being tallied by a machine and the code's in private, I don't know if they're flipping at 5149 behind the scenes. I've actually seen testimony of like developer that did that. Clint Eugene Curtis. I don't know if you ever heard his story, but he wrote the software to flip the votes 5149 for a politician. So
Democrats were making these same.
And if it's the same guy, I saw the clip of that guy who created these digital voting machines and algorithms, and he literally showed a demonstration on just how easy it is to flip the numbers of votes for particular people. Hey, this country is a joke. And this voting system is a joke.
Claims or
it's always been a joke.
Supporters are making. And you see the Hillary Clinton thing already? Hillary Clinton came out and said the Republicans are planning on stealing 2024.
It's okay. It's
Dude,
okay when she does it.
It's I don't even care at this point. I'm just like, the Democrat and Republican culture, the liberal and conservative culture is it's two distinct things, two completely different realities, and it's been that way for a long time. And now you've got both sides accusing each other of cheating. I don't care who you think is right, left, right, up, down, whatever. The fact is, two factions think both sides are stealing the election. Both sides disagree with each other's culture. How does that resolve itself?
Yeah.
Is it?
And I will set the Egyptians against the Egyptians again, and they shall fight. Everyone against his brother and everyone against his neighbor, city against city and kingdom against kingdom. Hey, that's how this is ultimately going to resolve itself.
Just seriously, to the people who think it's silly when I say things like civil war, do you think the end result is going to be that, like, Hillary Clinton walks up to Trump and says, "How could I stay mad at you?" And then Trump's like, "Come here," and they hug? Is it going to be like the BLM marcher with the black mask on and the Molotov sees the Trump supporter with the MAGA flag, and then he drops the Molotov and goes, "What have I become?" And the Trump supporters, "Come here, buddy," and then they hug.
Is there a Pepsi there and
Yes.
Kylie Jenner? There you
right.
go. That could work. Hey.
Do they think that Kylie Jenner is going to walk up to a BLM and Trump supporter and hand them both Pepsis? Then they're going to both look at each other and then hug? Seriously, though, for what reason at any point would any of this de-escalate? I'm looking for a legitimate argument.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see any form of de-escalation. I'm seeing a lot of people adding fuel to the fire. I'm seeing this getting totally out of hand. This building up of calling elections illegitimate has been happening for many years now. The groundwork has been set for this. Specifically when we look at, the Trump election, the Russian collusion, and all the people coming forward saying, I don't trust this election, I don't trust this voting box, I don't trust this voting machine. And I think there are some, legitimate questions. I think a lot of people are also sensationalistic and hyperbolic in a way that doesn't serve anyone's interest. But at the end of the day, that's a good question that you asked here, and that's something that I've been thinking about for a very long time, and I see no off-road. I see no way of stopping this train coming ahead of a major disaster inside of the United States.
The only thing that I can see that can fix...
Point blank, period. That's it with this clip. Now I'm going to close it out in 2nd Esdras chapter 15 in the Apocrypha, verses 15 to 16. For the sword in their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another. And that goes into many things. one race of people standing up and fighting against another, as it says in Matthew chapter 24, and nation shall rise against nation. One political class rising up and fighting against each other, Republicans versus Democrats, conservative versus liberal, red versus blue, class warfare, rich versus poor, and the average everyday person fighting against those in the government, and swords in their hands. And the modern day sword, especially in the United States of America, is that gun, which, as we saw during the C-19 lockdowns and the George Floyd protests, there was an uptick in the U.S. of new gun owners. Hey, that didn't just happen for those guns to sit in a box in the house. Verse 16, for there shall be sedition among men. And the definition for that word sedition is conduct or speech inciting rebellion against a ruling authority or monarch. And what did we just hear in that clip? Hey, that people are at odds with each other over the midterm elections and saying that the voting system is rigged and that whoever wins, hey, it was bullshit anyway. They stole the election and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes. And your modern day kings and princes are your people in the government, your mayors, governors, senators, presidents, prime ministers, as well as the authorities that uphold the system, like the police and the military. And again, whoever wins, you'll have one side say, oh, I don't see them as the legitimate winner. I don't see him as the legitimate president. And they stole the elections. We need to do something about it. Them not regarding their kings nor princes. And ultimately, these people are going to start fighting against these politicians because a lot of people are waking up to the fact that, again, they don't have their best interests at heart. They're only following after the dictates of the elites, and the elites' agenda is to bring down the United States of America. I did a video a couple of months ago showing that over the past years, threats towards people in the U.S. government has increased. And some of the examples they showed was one guy who called his local senator or congressman who he was disgruntled with and said, look, I'm going to get you, I'm going to skin you alive and kill you. And eventually stuff like that's going to become a reality, and the course of their actions shall stand in their power. So that's it with this video. And with this video, I hope you sincere Akim and Akwath were edified. Just keep strong, as we can clearly see the kingdom of Esau Edom in the United States of America, as well as globally, is divided and will fall. And then we got next in the kingdom of heaven. So as always, I'm going to say Abad Babal, Kwam Yasharala, and until next time, Shalom.